Mitt Romney is running to become the first Mormon president of the United States, and that's something that President Obama's re-election team says is off limits. David Axelrod said yesterday Romney's faith is not fair game. It's not something that Romney often talks about himself. So how do we know how his faith influences his life? Joining me now is the New York Times' Jodi Kantor, whose article Saturday delves deep into Mitt Romney's faith. Jodi, it's nice to see you, and as we talk about this article that you wrote about the church's influences on Mitt Romney, they can really be difficult to detect, and that intertwines with family and family beliefs. So explain that to all of us, what you were able to learn looking into this.
Well, what we were really looking at is the biographical influence of faith on Mitt Romney's life. Now, nobody thinks that as president he would sort of impose Mormon doctrine or rule with, a Bible on his desk in the Oval Office and make decisions that way. We're talking about much more subtle matters of worldview, of morality, of values. And so some of the things that we see he learned from the church is a real emphasis on persistence and resilience, a real emphasis on rules. And another interesting thing I learned is that prayer plays a huge role in the way he sort of approaches the world and makes decisions. He prays quite a lot, quite seriously, and he has prayed on both political and business decisions.
He is a man of faith, and he is one that readily admits that this faith runs deep for him. You wrote that some of his traits as a Republican do mirror the traditional Mormon traits as well. What were you able to learn about those mirror images that reflect back from being a Mormon to being a Republican?
One of the most interesting is a belief in American exceptionalism. Every political candidate goes out on the trail and unfurls his or her patriotism, right? But Mitt Romney's is a little bit different, because Mormons actually believe that God had a plan for the United States, that the country is sort of divinely inspired, that the Constitution is divinely inspired, that our country is marked by God to play a unique role in history.
When we look, though, at how Mitt Romney being a politician also intertwines with what it is to be a man of deeply religious faith through the Mormon tenets, how do those match up? I mean, are there conflicts, though, that lead one to believe that he does struggle with how to be a good elected politician, but also be one that has deep, reflective faith with what he's learned being a Mormon?
Well, it's interesting, because the way I reported the story is I really talked to members of the LDS Church who are close to Romney, who have worshipped with him over the years, who really know him, and they see one conflict in particular, which is between the kind of ideals that Romney professed in church. He put a lot of emphasis on treating other people well, on being sensitive and respectful, on being generous and giving, talked a lot about Jesus's lessons in those manner, and yet these Mormons see the way Romney is carrying out political attacks, some of which are very harsh, and they see a conflict between what he taught in church and what he does on the campaign trail.
It's an interesting read. Jodi Kantor from the New York Times. Jodi, nice to see you today. Thank you.
Thank you.